The dark secret behind mass obedience. What if the reason most people follow orders, even when they know it's wrong, has nothing to do with morals and everything to do with fear? Mass obedience isn't created through logic, persuasion, or belief. It's built through fear. Not just fear of violence, but fear of exclusion, shame, uncertainty, and punishment. The dark secret behind mass obedience is that it's not enforced by power alone, but by fear that lives inside each person. Psychologists have studied this for decades. The Milgram experiment in the 1960s revealed something terrifying. Ordinary people, when instructed by an authority figure, were willing to deliver what they believed were dangerous electric shocks to strangers. Why? Because they were told to. Their fear of disobeying, of breaking the rules, of being responsible, overrode their empathy. This experiment wasn't an anomaly. It has been repeated in various forms with similar results. Humans, when placed in structured hierarchies and pressured by fear or authority, often comply, even against their values. Mass obedience isn't the result of evil individuals. It's the product of conditioned fear responses. Look at history. The worst atrocities, genocides, slavery, dictatorships, weren't carried out by monsters. They were executed by thousands of ordinary people following orders. Why? Because the cost of disobedience, real or imagined, felt too high. This is how systems of control are maintained. Governments, militaries, schools, corporations, they don't need to constantly punish. They just need to make examples. One person gets fired, jailed, humiliated, or cancelled, and everyone else falls in line. The message is clear: obey, or you're next. Mass obedience also thrives on social fear. Humans are wired to conform. Standing out feels unsafe. Going against the group can feel like walking into danger. That's why so few speak up, even when they disagree. The fear of being labeled, mocked, isolated, or attacked often outweighs the need to be right. Propaganda deepens this effect. Repeated slogans, visual symbols, chants, and emotional appeals bypass rational thinking. They create group identity and group fear. Once you're part of the collective, leaving or disagreeing feels like betrayal. Your sense of self gets fused with the group, and fear keeps you locked in. Education systems also condition obedience. Don't question the teacher. Stay in line. Follow instructions. Grades and punishments reinforce the idea that compliance equals safety and success. Creativity and critical thinking often take a back seat to memorization and discipline. Even parenting can unknowingly instill this pattern. Children who are raised with punishment rather than dialogue learn early: authority equals power equals fear. Later in life, these children often submit to bosses, leaders, and rules without challenge, not because they agree, but because it feels familiar and safe. But obedience isn't always passive. Sometimes people become enforcers themselves, shaming others who step out of line, reporting nonconformists, or defending unjust systems. This is called identification with the aggressor. People do this to align with power, hoping it shields them from harm. Mass obedience becomes most dangerous when fear is invisible, when people don't realize they're afraid, when fear has been normalized, when staying quiet feels like virtue, when questioning feels like danger. That's when societies sleepwalk into tyranny. But obedience isn't destiny. Courage is contagious too. History also shows us that movements, revolutions, and cultural shifts begin with a few who refuse to obey. They question, they resist, and their bravery wakes others up. To escape the trap of mass obedience, you must recognize fear, not just in others, but in yourself. Where are you quiet out of fear? Where are you compliant without consent? Who benefits from your silence? Mass obedience is not the sign of a healthy society. It's the signal of suppressed minds, fearful hearts, and manipulated masses. The dark secret is that it only takes a few brave voices to shatter the illusion. And when they rise, the rest remember that freedom begins where fear ends. Triggering terror. How leaders hack your brain. They don't need chains to control you, just fear in the right place at the right time. Leaders throughout history have known one profound psychological truth. If you want to control the masses, you don't need weapons, armies, or cages. You just need to make people afraid. Not just a little afraid, terrified. Afraid of war, afraid of disease, afraid of the other, afraid of losing their safety, their comfort, their future. Because once fear takes hold, the human mind becomes vulnerable, suggestible, and in that mental fog, people follow. This isn't new, it's ancient, and it all starts in the brain. Your brain is hardwired to detect threats. It's a survival machine. And at the center of this mechanism is your amygdala, the almond-shaped threat detector that scans your environment for danger. But connected to that is something even older, the reptilian brain. The reptilian brain doesn't do nuance. It doesn't think in politics, ethics, or long-term strategy. It doesn't weigh options or imagine better futures. It reacts, instantly, brutally, and leaders who understand this can use it against you. Here's how it works. Step 1. Create a perceived threat. It can be real or manufactured. An enemy nation, a viral outbreak, a religious minority, a political ideology. It doesn't matter. What matters is the emotional reaction. Fear must be triggered. Survival instincts must be activated. Step 2. Amplify it. Use media to repeat it. Frame it as urgent. Dramatize it. Make it personal. Use numbers, statistics, and horror stories. Make people feel like the threat is everywhere, at all times, coming for them. Step 3. Offer a solution. But the solution must come with a price. More surveillance, fewer rights, more laws, less dissent, and most importantly, more power for the leaders themselves. And step 4, paint anyone who questions it as part of the threat. Now you have a population that's not just scared, but divided. A population that doesn't question authority, but polices each other. A population that isn't united in truth, but fractured by fear. This isn't theoretical. This is the playbook of tyrants, kings, priests, presidents, and billionaires. Whether it was Caesar warning of barbarian invasions, the church preaching the fires of hell, or modern governments issuing color-coded threat levels, it's all the same manipulation. And it always works, because it bypasses your logical brain. In fear, blood rushes away from your prefrontal cortex, your center for reason and long-term planning, and toward your survival centers. Your brain shuts down thinking and opens up reaction. In this state, propaganda enters unfiltered. You believe faster, question less, submit more. Even better for leaders. Fear makes people crave authority. The more uncertain the world feels, the more we long for someone to take charge, to restore order, to lead us to safety. And those promises are always dressed up in national pride, moral duty, and collective unity. But the result is always the same: control. And so we are played, again and again, century after century. But there's a way out. Awareness. When you know how your brain works, when you understand the manipulation, you can break the spell. You can pause, breathe, reflect. You can ask, who benefits from my fear? Is this threat real or exaggerated? Am I being led or being used? And in that moment, the manipulation breaks. Because a brain that can observe itself is no longer a puppet. It becomes free, clear, resilient. Fear isn't the enemy, but unconscious fear is. And the leaders who exploit it fear only one thing: your awareness, the reptilian brain, silent slave master of society. You think you're free, but an ancient part of your brain may still own you. The reptilian brain is the oldest part of the human brain. It evolved over 500 million years ago and was designed for one thing only: survival. It doesn't care about your dreams, your purpose, or your freedom. It only cares about keeping you alive, right now, at any cost. And while it kept our ancestors alive from predators and tribal wars, in the modern world, this ancient brain has become a silent slave master. It still operates, still dictates behavior, still overrides higher reasoning, and most people never even realize it. This part of your brain governs instinctual responses: fight, flight, freeze, and submit. It doesn't think, it reacts. It's territorial, compulsive, and suspicious. And here's the danger: it has no concept of modern reality. To the reptilian brain, criticism on social media is a life threat. Financial uncertainty is death. A disagreement is war. Losing status is like being cast out of the tribe. And so, it panics, it screams, and it takes over. Most people live under its control every day. This is why so many react with rage to opinions, why people cling to identities, political parties, and belief systems with religious zeal, why we are so easily divided, triggered, and controlled. Because we are not reasoning beings as much as we are frightened animals, unless we consciously rise above. Society is built to stimulate the reptilian brain. Cities are noisy, chaotic, and fast-paced, constant micro-threats. Social media keeps us in comparison and status anxiety. News keeps us in terror. Consumerism feeds territorial greed. School teaches obedience over curiosity. And work culture glorifies survival mode stress. It's not a conspiracy. It's an unconscious system designed around fear and control. And at the center of it all is your own ancient programming. But here's the twist. The reptilian brain can't be killed or removed. You need it to survive. But you cannot let it drive your life, because it doesn't care about peace, love, creativity, or unity. It only cares about safety through domination or submission. So what do? You observe. You study your reactions. You notice when your body goes into defense mode: tight chest, shallow breath, clenched jaw, tunnel vision. You stop treating every stressor like an existential crisis. And most importantly, you re-engage the higher mind. That's the neocortex, the part of your brain that imagines, empathizes, and reflects. It's what makes you human. It's the only part of you that can override the reptilian patterns. Meditation, breathwork, journaling, long walks, silence. These practices aren't just spiritual. They're neurological rebellions. They pull you out of the lizard's grip and restore your clarity. And once you're clear, you're free. Not because the reptilian brain disappears, but because it no longer dominates you. Look around. A society run by unconscious survival instincts looks exactly like ours. Polarized, violent, anxious, addicted, and controlled. But when enough people become aware of the puppet master in their own skulls, things change. Revolutions don't start in the streets. They start in the nervous system. Don't let an ancient brain define a modern life. Train it, understand it, master it. Because if you don't, it already owns you. How fear bypasses logic and hijacks minds. It doesn't matter how smart you are. If you're scared, your brain stops thinking. That's not an insult. It's neuroscience. Fear is not just an emotion. It's a biological override system. When When triggered, it doesn't ask for your opinion. It doesn't care about your education, your spirituality, or your political views. It floods your brain with chemicals, diverts blood away from your frontal cortex, your thinking brain, and pushes all power to your survival circuits. And in that moment, you don't analyze. You obey. This is why fear is the #1 tool for mass manipulation. It disables critical thought. It hijacks minds. It makes people repeat slogans instead of asking questions. It turns citizens into followers, and it has been used for millennia for religious control, military conquest, political power, and media ratings. Let's look at the process. Step 1. Fear is introduced through a crisis, a threat, an enemy. It could be a virus, a war, a financial crash, a dangerous ideology, or a scandal. Step 2. Repetition. Fear isn't effective unless it's constant, so the message is repeated, hourly, daily, until your brain accepts it as reality, even if it's based on exaggeration or deception. Step 3. Emotional hijack. You feel anxious, confused, unsafe. You want clarity, safety, direction. Step 4. The solution is presented, and it always comes with strings attached. Less freedom, more obedience, more division, less truth. But by this stage, your logic isn't functioning. Your emotional brain is steering the ship, and whatever sounds like safety will be accepted, no matter how irrational, extreme, or unjust. This is how entire nations fall into madness. This is how populations cheer for war, how neighbors turn against each other, how good people stay silent during oppression, not because they're evil, but because they were scared, deeply, repeatedly, strategically. And when fear becomes chronic, the brain adapts. A mind stuck in long-term fear becomes more reactive, more tribal, more obedient, less curious, less creative, less free. And here's the kicker. Even when the original threat goes away, the fear lives on. It becomes identity. It becomes worldview. It becomes the default setting of the nervous system. So what's the way out? Truth, but not just external facts. Inner clarity. When you feel fear arise, pause. Ask yourself, is this fear mine, or was it injected? Am I thinking or reacting? Is this belief based on evidence or emotion? This isn't just intellectual, it's physiological. You must calm the body to restore the mind. Deep breath, grounded movement, centered awareness. Only then does logic return. Because truth isn't found in panic, it's found in stillness. If fear is the poison, awareness is the antidote. In a world that wants you afraid, anxious, and obedient, your calm, conscious mind is an act of rebellion. Reclaim it